Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, welcome everybody to our daily Gita classes. We are going to be speaking from chapter 1, entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we're going to be speaking from text number 9 and 10. We're going to just recover text number 9 from yesterday because the recording wasn't recorded. So we'll recap text 9 and then we'll move to text number 10. Okay, so I'm just going to read text 9 again. Don't repeat after me, just for completeness. Yeah. अन्ये च बहवः शूरा मद अर्थे त्वक्ता जीविता नानाशस्त्र प्रहाराना सर्वे युध विशारदः. And now text 10. Aparyaptam tad asmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tu idam etesham balam bhima virakshitam aparyaptam tad asmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tu idam etesham balam bhima virakshitam aparyaptam tadashmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam to idam etesham balam bhima virakshitam aparyaptam tam ashmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam to itam etesham balam bhima virakshitam aparyaptam tadashmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam to idam etesham balam bhima virakshitam aparyaptam tam ashmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam to idam etesham balam bhima virakshitam aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tvaidam etesham balam bhima virakshitam. Okay. Prabhu. Can you get the light on? Yeah. Okay, word for word translation. Aparyaptam, immeasurable. Tat, that. Ashmakam, of ours. Balam, strength. Bhishma, by grandfather Bhishma. Abhirakshitam, perfectly protected. Paryaptam, limited. Tu, but. Idam, all this. Etesham, of the Pandavas. Balam, strength. Bhima, by Bhima. Abhirakshitam, carefully protected. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki. Translation. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by Grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Please repeat after me. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by Grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Purport. Herein, an estimation of comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, Grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat text 9 in that before we move on to text number 10 for today. So text 9, it says Anyacha Bahava Shura Mad Arte Takta Jivita Nana Shastra Praharana Sarve Yuddha Visharadaha. So what has been happening so far is that Duryodhana is speaking. He started speaking because he was afraid when he saw the military formation that was created by the Pandavas. So although the Pandavas army in force, in numbers, but the way they set up their army, it appeared to be very huge. It looked very huge. And so Duryodhana, he thought that he had the presumption that the Pandavas are just coming from a 12 Yatvas, meaning they had to be doing exile while invisible, right? So they did not expect that the Pandavas will have so many people fighting for them, because ultimately all of the Pandavas' kingdom was taken over by the Kauravas. So when Duryodhana saw that even though the Pandavas had gone for exile for 12 years and Agyatavas, incognito exile, for one more year, they were surprised that they were able to get 7 Akshauni Sena. The number of the strength is called the power. The way they count the army is in terms of Akshauni. So after so much time in exile, Duryodhana thought that this would be a one-sided victory. And so when the Pandavas came in front of them in such a huge army, Duryodhana thought that, okay, I might have miscalculated. I might have underestimated the Pandavas' strength. So he goes to his teacher, Dronacharya, and he tries to boost the morale of himself by trying to be diplomatic with the way he speaks to Dronacharya and the rest of his army, like the great warriors of his army. So he starts by telling Dronacharya in a very subtle way that look at what you have done. The person who you taught, Drishta, who you knew is going to be the cause of your death, and you still taught him the military science. And now look, he is now on the opposing side, and he's done such a great way, in an excellent way, that it seems to be baffling me. It seems to have unnerved me. So he says this was not a very intelligent thing to do. So please don't be this lenient in the fight itself. And so, how does Duryodhana address Dronacharya? He addresses Dronacharya and actually Drishtadyumna not by his name, but by Drupada Putrena. So he tried to change the focus from thinking of the other side to be the side of the Pandavas into the side of his enemy Drupad, so that he will not become lenient when he sees that the other side also contains his enemy and not the affectionate students that he really loves. So when he tries to do this, he is just trying to boost the fighting spirit of Dronacharya. Now, then he's saying this to Dronacharya, then he realizes, oh, actually I'm talking to him, but all the great warriors are standing around here. Maybe I should include them as well, because they should not feel that I'm just giving extra attention to Dronacharya. So then he mentions so many different warriors on his side. But before that, he basically tells his teacher, Dronacharya, about the strength that he can see in the other side. And so he says a few verses describing the strength on the Pandava side. He says that, oh, there's this person, there's Bhima, there's Arjuna, there's Duryodhana, there's Drupad, there's Virat. They are all such great warriors. In total, he counts 21 such great warriors. And then on his side, he only counts 7. And so he's like, but my army is bigger, so how can I include everyone? And that is why he speaks text number 9. He says, Anya cha bahava shura. Bahava means in great number. And Anya cha, all others in great numbers. What is your capability? He calls them shuraha, meaning you're all heroic. You all have valor in you. Then he said, Mart arte tvakta jivita, meaning that you have all come here dedicated to fight till the end of your life for my benefit. Mad arte, for my benefit, Takta Jivita, that you're prepared to lay down your lives for my benefits. Nana Shastra Praharana, meaning that you are expert in wielding all types of weapons. And Sarve Yuddha Visharada, and you're all very experienced in the military art. So he's using so many adjectives, Shuraha, meaning heroes. He's using Takta Jivita to say that you're so committed, to say you're Nana Shastra, you're expert in all weapons, and that you are experienced in the art of war. So he's using all these adjectives to try and boost the morale of all the other prominent fighters of his own army. Okay? Now, the reason why he did this is that he did not want anyone on his side to feel as if that they are going to be on the losing side. So he basically tries to make sure that everyone who is on his side is convinced that they are going to win. Because if they are not convinced that they are going to win, they might not be very much determined to fight. Yeah, because everyone likes to be on the winning side. Yeah, and actually there was some story of a person called Yuyutsu, and Yuyutsu is Duryodhana's half brother. Means when Dhritarashtra, when Gandhari was pregnant with the 100 Kauravas, the pregnancy was delayed. It went for more than 12 months. And at the same time, they heard the news that Pandu has got a son from the womb of Kunti in the forest. And so Yudhishthir became the firstborn out of both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Hearing this, Dhritarashtra became very angry because he was very much hoping that if his son was born first, then naturally the claim to the throne would be of his son. And so in a fit of rage, he enjoined with a maidservant, and from that union came Yuyutsu. So although Yuyutsu was born of a maidservant, he was not considered of royal blood of the Kauravas, but he was still the half brother of Duryodhana. And so before the war started, Yuyutsu had deflected to the Pandavas. He, like when before the war began, each side were saying to their side, if you feel like you cannot fight to your full ability by fighting on this side of the army, you can join the other side. But you have to fight with your full valor, with your full ability and full conviction. And so when Yudhishthir asked the Kaurav army, if anyone wants to fight on behalf of us, please come. At that time, Yuyutsu said, will you please take me on your side? And Yudhishthir welcomed him and promised him that you will basically set the funeral pyre of all the 100 Kauravas. And so Yudhishthir had already proclaimed that his side is going to win. And this is what happened in the end. The Yuyutsu is the one who lit the funeral pyre of all the 100 Kauravas. Okay? So to prevent such further deflection, Duryodhana, being a master diplomat and a master politician, he is saying all of these words just to boost the morale of his army. Right? But now there is a slip of tongue. He says, Mad Artha Tvakta Jivita. When he says Tvakta Jivita, Tvakta means already given up. It's in the past tense. So he's not saying that they are going to give up their lives. He says they've already given up their lives. So already Duryodhana has made a prediction of his own downfall here. Either he meant to say it or he did not meant to say it. But he said it out of a slip of tongue. And is basically confirmed that this is what is going to happen. Although Duryodhana is not divine by any stretch of the imagination, but because his words appear in the Bhagavad Gita, and the Gita is a divine book, so by divine arrangement, even his words became a prophecy, a self-fulfilling prophecy. that he has basically put in stone that his own side, all the warriors are going to give up their lives for his sake. Yeah? And this trend continues in today's shlok, in 10.10. What does he say? Aparyaptam tad asmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tva idam etasham balam bhima virakshitam. So now here, if you look at the makeup of the two lines, they're very similar. The word balam is there in both of them. The word abhirakshitam is there in both the lines. The only difference is, in one sense is Bhishma and the other is Bhima. So there's only a difference of Sha and no Sha. And in the first line it says aparyaptam and the other one is paryaptam. So there's only a difference of the letter A. Now the letter A in Sanskrit is a prefix. Yeah, just like in English language, there is a prefix called in. Now this word in, if you add it in front of a word, it either intensifies it or it will negate it. Okay, for example, how many of you have heard the word substantial? It is substantial amount. If you add the word in front of it, it becomes insubstantial. Now what does insubstantial mean? It's worthless. It's nothing. Now I give you another word, valuable. Valuable means it's good. But now you put the word in front of it, it becomes invaluable. So now what happens to the word? What does it mean? It means a lot. So the word in, which is a prefix, can either intensify the adjective that it is added to, or it can negate it, or it can make it worthless. You can either make it invaluable or valueless. Right? So like that, the word paryaptam means adequate. So the word aparyaptam can mean two things. Either it can mean it is immeasurable, as it is said here in the translation, or it could also mean that it is insufficient. It is insufficient. So in our Gaudiya Vaishnav lineage, Prabhupada ji has translated this word aparyaptam to meaning immeasurable, which is consistent with the commentary that has been written by Sripad Baladev Vidyabhushan. But in the Gaudiya Vaishnav line, there is another great Acharya by the name Sripad Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he, in his commentary of the Gita, he has said aparyaptam to meaning insufficient. So you'd be thinking, is this not a contradiction? No, it is not a contradiction. Because if you look at the commentary has a certain mood to it. Now the mood of the commentary of Prabhupada ji and Sripad Baladev Vidyabhushan is based on the tattva. What is the tattva focus? The truth is that the Kauravas army was indeed greater in strength than the Pandavas army. So that is why the word immeasurable is right in that sense. That just by the truth of military numbers, the Kaurava army is greater than the Pandava army. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the mood of his commentary is based on rasa. It is based on an emotional level. And he says that the fighting spirit of the Kauravas was less than the fighting spirit of the Pandavas. And therefore, the word aparyaptam has been utilized to show that the fighting spirit of the Kauravas was less and insufficient compared to the Pandavas. Because if you think about it, in the Kaurava army, you had Bhishma. Bhishma Dev had tried so hard to make sure that this war doesn't happen. He kept on telling Duryodhana, please do not go to war. Think about Arjuna being on the other side. Think about Krishna being on the other side. Think about Bhima being on the other side. You have no chance against the Pandavas. So Bhishma Pitama was reluctantly fighting this war. He was not fighting with the strongest of fighting spirits. Yes? And neither did Dronacharya want to fight the war because his beloved student Arjuna was on the other side. Yeah? But on the other hand, the Pandavas were so fired up to fight this war, especially Bhima. Bhima was waiting, he was itching for the chance to have this war with the Kauravas and to finally have an opportunity, an equal opportunity to settle the scores once and for all. So Shripad Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary, he's focused more on the rasa, while Prabhupada and Shripad Baldev Vidyabhushan Maharaj focused more on the tattva. So whether you look at it this way or this way, according to the mood, they are both correct. They are both correct. Yeah? But what does this verse also show us? This verse also shows how much Duryodhana was obsessed with Bhima. Even in the one of the earlier verses, when the first word, the first warrior that comes to Duryodhana's mind when he sees the opposing army is whose name? Bhima. Although Bhima is not the most formidable opponent in the Pandava army, Arjuna was the most accomplished. He was and actually he is the one who was the most destructive one. Yes, and of course it's Krishna. And although he's a non-combatant, but because he's non-combatant doesn't mean he's not taking a part in the war. He's strategizing. He's helping the Pandavas in many ways during the war, even without fighting. Right? So, but for Duryodhana, he had a special obsession towards Bhima because both of them were masters in Gada fighting, which is mace fighting. And there was so much hatred between the two. Over their lives, Duryodhana developed a special hatred towards Bhima in particular, because Bhima had humiliated him on many occasions, and so that's why Duryodhana was always focused on Bhima being the main in the opposing army. Yes, so what does this show? This shows that whatever dominates our consciousness and fills our inner world, that will manifest in our outer expression. It will also express itself in our thoughts, in our reflections, in our words. I cannot see what's happening in your head, but the way you speak to me will reveal a lot about what is your consciousness like. Right? In Gujarati, there is this saying, Jevo sang, evo rang, meaning the people associate with that sort of qualities you imbibe. And this is a very universal principle. If you want, if there's a room of 100 people and there are 5 smokers and you leave them for a good amount of time, those 5 smokers will be able to overcome those 95 non-smokers. So bad habits can carry out faster than good habits. But if you want to still develop good habits, you have to keep on associating with people who already have those good qualities and good habits. Right? Now, also this shows how much the comparison between Bhishma is a commander-in-chief of the Kaurava army. Who is the commander-in-chief of the Pandava army? Who is the commander-in-chief? Yes, Drupad's son, Drishadumya. So if you're comparing the commander-in-chief, you should compare him with the other commander-in-chief. But he doesn't do that. He compares the commander-in-chief with just a general. Bhima was just in charge of one Akshauhini Sena. So there's again a mismatch here. But this again shows how much Duryodhana was scared of Bhima. because he knew that if, as Prabhupada ji writes in the purport, Duryodhana knew that if he had to die at all, he would die at the hands of Bhima. And so that is why Bhima was living rent free in Duryodhana's head. Yeah? So the question that I want to ask you is, what can we learn to apply, or what can we learn from this verse that we can apply in our life? Duryodhana has been speaking for some time now. For a few verses he has been speaking. There's so many lessons that we can learn from Duryodhana. You can also learn from negative examples of how not to be. Yeah, we all want to have role models. We can have heroes to look up to say that, oh, I want to do what this person has done. I want to achieve what this person has achieved. But at the same time, it's very important to also have role models which are villains to understand what you should not be doing. So Duryodhana is a person that we can learn from on what not to do or what to avoid doing. So what we can learn is to avoid having the Duryodhana delusion. Now what does that mean? What is Duryodhana's delusion? So when Duryodhana was comparing the strength of both the armies, he said so many people's names, yet because Krishna had vowed to remain a non-combatant, he had vowed not to fight in the war, so automatically Duryodhana thought that he is pointless, he is useless. If he is not going to be an active part in the war, why should I even think about him? But fighting is not always about physical fighting. You can have mental fights, you can have strategical fights, which are fighting, but you are not going to ever come face to face with that person. Yes? And so this was his fatal mistake. This mistake of overlooking the fact that Krishna is on the other side was his fatal mistake. Yes? And this is what we do, that even when God, he seems to be a non-combatant, he seems to be so far away, he seems to be not in our life, we can't see him, we cannot see how he is operating, and then we start thinking in very material things, materialistic ways, that, oh, what is the strength of this, what is the weakness of that. We start comparing our lives with whatever material things that we have got, and forgetting that Krishna is still playing a role, even though we cannot see him playing a role. Just like Duryodhana, he could not see how Krishna will be the most crucial aspect of the war. Even though he is not fighting, we also tend to get so caught up in comparing material things that we forget the spiritual essence behind it all. We get so caught up in making plans, in thinking that, oh, should I do this or do I do that? If I do this, what are the pros and cons? If I do that, what are the pros and cons? With my own intelligence, with my own planning, with my own ability, let me try and figure out what is best for myself. But we don't realize that actually Krishna is a supreme person. So his will supersede our plans. It will supersede our will. We might will to become a millionaire the next day. But if Krishna wills differently, it's not going to be happening. And we carry this delusion even when we start our spiritual life. When we start spirituality, we understand, oh, yes, we need to serve Krishna. We are eternal, we are part and parcel of Krishna. We have to become servants of Krishna. But in knowing that on a theoretical level is not enough, because we are still carrying this delusion from our past contaminated stage into our spiritual life. Because we think, oh, if I do this service this way, if I can do it this way, I will be able to make Krishna happy. No, Krishna knows how to make himself happy, and he will engage you to become an instrument for him. If you do not want to become an instrument for him, then you're just kidding yourself. For example, if a person is playing a flute, and now the flute decides that, oh, instead of, if I press this hole, the note C will come out. But no, I will now, if he presses this hole, I will play the note D. So if the flute thinks that I can change the way I want to play and not go according to the way the person or the master is wanting me to play, then what is the point of the flute? The flute is defective because it is not going according to the will of the player or of its master. And so if we want to basically become really internally aligned with Krishna's will, then you have to be willing to become his instrument. And if you want to become his instrument, we have to give up the attachment to our plans of how to make him happy. We just have to let him reveal how it is that makes him happy. Right? So, this is what the Pandavas did. The Pandavas were his instruments. It says in the 11th chapter, text number 33, Krishna tells Arjuna, just become my instrument. I've already put everyone to death. You just become my instrument. Do or fight in the war, but fight it for my pleasure. Yes, and Krishna is always wanting to give glory to his devotees. Anyone who is a pure devotee of Krishna, he wants to make them glorious. And so that's why Krishna, he took a step back. He did not fight in the war because he wanted to give all the glory of the war to his dear devotees, the Pandavas. Yeah. So this is a difference we can see, that the Pandavas were internally aligned with the will of Krishna. But on the other hand, the Kauravas, and in the special case of Duryodhana, he was not only on the opposite side, he was completely on the opposite side. He actually tried to even arrest Krishna. He tried to think that Krishna can be under his control. So you can see the complete difference in the mentality between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. The Pandavas, for them, Krishna is the world. And if there is no Krishna, then the world is pointless. And for Duryodhana, the world is most important. And if Krishna helps in gaining the world, then is important. Otherwise, he is pointless. Complete different way of looking at it. Right? And that is why it shows when both Duryodhana and Arjuna went to seek Krishna's alliance for the war, and Krishna said, it's either me or my Narayani Sena. If you take me, I'm a non-combatant. If you take the Narayani Sena, you've got the most powerful army in the entire world. And so Duryodhana made a materialistic comparison that, oh, I'll just take the power of Krishna, which is the Narayani Sena. And Arjuna said, I don't care about the Narayani Sena. I just want you, my lords. I just want you. And in fact, after the Mahabharata war ended, and the Pandavas had ruled the kingdom for around 36 years. At that time, Krishna was still on the planet. And then when Krishna left the planet, and Arjuna, the same Arjuna, who had got so much power, so much glory for fighting against such great warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he himself, the same person, with the same bow, was unable to protect the wives of Krishna when they were being transported from Dwarka to Hastinapur. Imagine. And at that time, Arjuna felt that all my power, all my ability was coming because Krishna was with me. Now Krishna has disappeared from this material abode and gone back to the spiritual world. And so I feel powerless. I feel like I am not the same person. And as soon as this happened, this episode happened, the Pandavas said, now that's it. We are going to finish our chapter here and retire and give the kingdom to the grandson Parikshit Maharaj. So the Pandavas, they were just ruling for the sake of ruling. But the real reason that they were still sticking around is because Krishna was still performing his Leela here on the earth. And as soon as Krishna disappeared from the earthly plane to go back to Vaikunt, Golok Vrindavan, at that time even the Pandavas said that that's it. Now, if Krishna is not there, then the world is pointless. You see? This is the outlook of the Pandavas versus the outlook of the Kauravas. So this is what we have to learn, that we have to avoid this delusion of Duryodhana. It's subtle, yet it's there. And it is there even when we start our spiritual journey, because we have been conditioned in this material universe for such a long time. In fact, since time immemorial. So the way to solve this is to keep on reading Krishna's words, hearing Krishna's name, becoming more and more alert in our spiritual duties, in our spiritual activities, in our spiritual practices, in our spiritual sadhana, to be able to always hear what is Krishna's will and then to act according to that and not think that, oh, I know how to serve Krishna the best. Only Krishna knows how to serve himself the best, and we just have to keep on aligning ourselves to his will. Yes? We don't have to stick too tightly to our plan, because the supreme plan is always greater than any plan that we can imagine. In fact, there is this one poem that says that not a poem, but a phrase, that there have been more tears shed from prayers that were answered than the prayers that were left unanswered. Because sometimes we don't even know what is best for us. Sometimes we come and we start praying that, oh, I want this and this and this. And then we get what we want. And then there's a whole list of problems associated with that desire that has been fulfilled for us. Sometimes we say, oh, I just wish I could become really wealthy. And then when you're really wealthy, then you have to worry about keeping the wealth. You have to worry about making sure that it's not going to be stolen. You have to worry about that if it's stolen, then you start lamenting so much. So even when you desire something, it comes with a lot of problems hidden inside it. And it actually says in the Gita, in I think chapter 5, text number 22 and number 23, that all the happiness in this world is pregnant with misery. All the happiness in this world is pregnant with misery. That whatever we think will cause us happiness, actually too much of it, or even just a bit of it, and you will not be able to see the misery that is going to be caused from it. How many of you love eating chocolates? But now if you start eating chocolates, then you go to the doctor for health checkup and you find out, oh, now I'm diabetic. Yeah? Eating chocolate gives you happiness, but within it, there is the distress and the misery of getting diseased with diabetes. Right? So everything in this world is like that. And that is why Krishna says in chapter 8, text number 15, that this world is dukhalyam ashashatam. It is a place full of miseries. Anything that you find that is happy, that is giving you happiness, is actually pregnant with some misery in it. Right? So the whole point of it is to not dwell on the material reality, but to focus and realign ourselves like the Pandavas and focus on the principle of devoting ourselves to Krishna and working according to his plan and avoiding this delusion of Duryodhana in our life. Okay? Thank you so much. We're going to stop here. If anyone has any questions, any comments? No? ये श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।